Hello everyone, today I will be doing a sketchbook tour of 4 sketchbooks which I completed in the period of 2023 to 2024. This was part of my yearly art goals, so let's get started. Okay, so first I have this Moleskine sketchbook that I started in 2023, but I think it was the turning point for some of my artistic processes, because I started a coaching with Kylie Ames, and in the process, I went ahead and started experimenting more. Started using color in my work, so I thought this is a good place to start. So, like I said, I started coaching with Kylie Ames, who was a new masters coach and is also a fantastic fine art painter. And she's a colorist, so she uses color quite great, in fascinating ways. And I was like, let me learn as much as I can from her. So so one of the things that she did was start me on breaking in a sketchbook without getting too self-conscious that every piece of work has to be fantastic. So she had me do blind contours, 3 minutes or more. So here are some blind contours of things I had around the house, and then here's a double page. And then after that, she started giving me advice for how to do color studies and so on. Now, I'll put a disclaimer that none of this is like fantastic. I don't think this is all masterful work, but I think I'm doing this as a reflection of what I've learned in this year. Another thing that I did was some sketchbook prompts from an art school that I was attending, that it had some exercises, and I thought this would be a great way to break in the sketchbook. So one of the things was to draw something that I used to draw a lot as a child, and I'm a big fan of anime, and I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, and this is quite literally how I used to spend my afternoons in school. When I was not listening to the teacher, I would draw stick figures fighting and doing the Kamehameha. And this is me now, drawing Goku and drawing like a scene. so that was really fun. This one was a really fun page because I was like, oh wow, this really takes me back. Another assignment was to research. One of my favorite artists is Sargent, and I looked at one of his pieces, Madame X, and looked at the way that he explored his process in order to come up with the final piece. And I thought this was very lovely. Like, he doesn't settle for the first idea. He obviously had the thought of, he implemented furniture but in a different way in the final piece. His sketching is also incredibly loose, which I hope to get to at some point. And then just some head drawings, some stuff that I do when I have the spare time. I just started drawing some heads from the image library. Part of my color assignments, I did this color wheel. I also started doing a grid of all the colors that I had from watercolor, and combining them so I could identify it quickly. So I could identify quickly what color do I need to mix in order to get these combinations, right? Now it's of course, color is a little bit more complicated than that, but this made me start losing the fear of color. And here's a little doodle. And I like to write, so I take notes on the classes that I'm taking. So I had concepts from a watercolor class, sketchbooking from life from Catherine Bobkowski, who's also fantastic. Here's some Legend of Zelda sketches. This is from the Zelda art book, one of the big tomes, and I drew some of the figures. This was another activity from a class, which was doing a value range and then selecting specific portions of the value range in order to draw a landscape. I wasn't quite finished. There's a lot of unfinished work in my sketchbook, so I will probably be saying that a lot, but I wasn't quite finished. But this is part of the practice that you're supposed to do in preparation for a final piece, identifying your value range. I also, for some of the pieces that are in charcoal or are a little bit more involved, I like to put this onion paper, this tracing paper, and put it on top so it doesn't ruin whatever's across from it. Like that happens a lot with graphite and charcoal pieces. But additionally, I started writing some additional notes on top of this, so like I could see the piece and also write some information about it, right? These are one of the exercises that Kylie gave me, was to draw something, or I tried doing a landscape and I didn't let the watercolor settle. I was learning watercolor at the same time that I was doing these, so lots of fun. But the thing was to draw a landscape and then paint it in a different color. So this sketchbook will have lots of failures, watercolor wise. Not all of them are going to be bangers. Later on, I'm going to have a couple good sketchbooks that I'm pretty excited to show you. So here's more blank contour drawings. This is sometimes my friends come to visit and I get to do my homework assignments with just looking at people that I really like. So this is great. This is one of my friends. I tried to do a self-portrait. I cut it out from a sketchbook that I was using, and I was like, oh, I kind of like it. I'm gonna keep it here. I'll revisit this at some point. So I did a self-portrait, and then I also live in a big city, so I like going to the Fine Arts Museum, and I did some master studies when I was there, just doing a landscape, doing some figures. Really fantastic stuff. This is a second self-portrait. It's not finished. Like none of this is quite where I wanted it to be, but I thought it was a kind of like a fun way. Again, this sketchbook was quite fun in the fact that I experimented a lot more than I normally do, and I was happy with that, you know. Here we had a Dungeons and Dragons group in the Discord community for the art school, and one of the things that I put together was the character concept art for our D&D party. So here's our elf. We had an orc. We had a monk. I was a half elf rogue. So yeah, I thought that this is the kind of thing that I like to do. So it was pretty neat. Here's a scene from the D&D campaign, which I thought, you know, so I still need to improve my composition, but I thought this was lots of fun to do. All right, so obviously always taking notes from coaching sessions. A failed self-portrait, another attempt to do an exercise at these watercolors. I will say I didn't, because I wasn't familiar with watercolors when I started the sketchbook. I struggled a lot with not making this a mess, rather than a more thoughtful application of paint. So yeah, this is it's a learning process. Here I have some heads, some color and light. There was a class that was doing light studies, you know, of the head. Here's another one. Here's sometimes I would play with the line work with a friend from work gifted me this right here, which is an ink kind of quill, you know, not quite a quill, but like you dip it in the ink and it does good lines. So I was playing with this here. Here's some figure drawings. This one was a study from Imagine FX. They have these sketchbooks volumes that you can download from the local library, and I really like drawing this ogre, so I thought it was quite fun. Sometimes when I'm hanging out somewhere, I'll look at the TV and I'll just take some drawings from the news. Here's went to office party on Cinco de Mayo. This was another visit to the Museum of Fine Arts, so that was fun. I love going to the Museum of Fine Arts. There's so much good stuff there. Here I'm doing some head. This is the it's not quite the Loomis method. It's the Riley method of the head. And then I was also doing some Michael Hampton studies. So I just open up the book and then I would pick a figure that I really loved the look of it, and I would just study it and copy it. Here's another self-portrait of me from below, which it kind of reminds me of Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords. So there I am, just messing around. This one is a fun one. I was really happy with this one. I have a bonus sketchbook that I might record if I have the time, where I ideated this piece. So I think about climate change quite a bit, and because of that, I just couldn't stop thinking about like a piece that it's not quite what I envisioned at the end. It's missing an element of symbolic, like nature surviving or persevering despite us exiting the Anthropocene. But I really liked it. I think one of the things that I said to members of the community when I posted this, it felt very therapeutic to just do like the hatching lines over and over again. It just put me in a relaxed state, so I thought this was really fun. And not every like I said, these are sketchbooks, not final pieces, not showcases, no gallery work. This is just for me, so it was good. Another Sargent. This is Sargent, I believe, Master Study. I really love his work. I started a piece of Wind Waker, one of my favorites, and I need to better utilize the empty space in all my pages. Sometimes I leave a lot, I don't with graphite, I don't like to have more stuff on the opposite side, because graphite will stick and will blend and will dirty up the concept. So that's why I like to use the tracing paper to protect it. But I need to get better at using the entire page, right? Something that I try to do in other sketchbooks. So this is a Bouguereau, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. These were some pieces or some items from Zelda. I really like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so I was doing some stuff inspired by just doing random items and inventories and custom pieces, and using watercolor pencils to like paint them. Again, I really struggle a little bit with the watercolor application on the Moleskine sketchbook, but I'll have a couple more sketchbooks where I actually really start using nothing but. This is gouache. I did a gouache of Hetsu, I believe that's his name, and it was lots of fun. The line work or the shape design could be a little bit better, but I thought this was really really fun to do. Next time I'll do it in color. Then I have some additional ideation for self-portraits. So it's one of the things that I have children, so I was thinking of like, could I possibly incorporate my children into the self-portrait, like be completely finished of rendered my face and my body, and then my children will be kind of in like a very moving way, like they're moving, they're blurry, or they're not quite finished, to kind of indicate how they're in the process of growing. I was compositionally, like, am I looking at the camera? Am I looking profile? I have a huge nose. At least I've been told I have a huge nose. So I was thinking of like, okay, what if I did a profile? I think that would be kind of funny. Duality of people, like, who I am when you see me one way, and who I am when you see me another way. I was really, really tired at the time, so I thought it would be also really funny to have a piece that was like just an exhausted looking version of me. But so I have ideas of what I'm gonna do next. Also, this guy, I think I'm flipping, this composition where I would be flipping people off, like, kind of challenging. Then I have thumbnails of the master sketches. There was a class by Catherine Bobkowski that was doing charcoal studies of master painting. So I initially just did a little bit of line work, a little bit of graphite, and started working on that. But the class called for charcoal, so I had and for a much bigger piece of paper. So I have them, the final pieces, I have them somewhere else. But I was like, okay, can I do this in my sketchbook? I was kind of preparing myself to tackle this. One of the things that I started doing more and more is do my own birthday cards to friends and family. So I have like a happy birthday Noe, who's the son of a friend of mine, and he likes horror shows and horror movies. So I had the Five Nights at Freddy, and I had Megan, and yeah, so like some current horror out there. Also, messing with portraits and kind of trying to have a softer blend. Again, not all of them bangers. This is I don't like this page. It lives a lot. Yeah, it's all unfinished. This one I really liked. Master study of Goya. I like horror as well, so I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's see how this goes. So yeah, this one I really like. This was I finished in August of 2023, and it was a study of Goya, Saturn eating his son, and I thought it was fantastic. I love his work, so yeah, this was a fun one. Blank again, playing and experimenting, but not really succeeding with watercolor in this one. Some cute sketches, some cute doodles. I drew Frank from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so Danny DeVito. I drew him half man, half goat, like he did Hercules. He was the satyr, so I drew him as half man, half goat, and it then gave me the idea, because we were doing a fantasy illustration club, and it gave me the idea of kind of like, what if I did like an animatic of Hercules, but with the voices of people from Always Sunny. So then I try to figure out who is who. Mac being Hercules, D being Pain, Misery, and Dennis being Hades, Frank being the satyr, of course, and Charlie being the Pegasus. So yeah, thought that was fun. So I started storyboarding the piece, and I'm still working on it. These are some watercolor exercises that I had to do for the watercolor sketchbooking from life class. Looking at the tea, coffee, and milk consistency, looking at different effects, negative spaces. So this is quite the fun page to look at. I started working on another climate change piece, but I'm not quite finished. I'm not quite happy with the composition, so I'm thinking of doing something related to like the IPC reports, and then having like a story in the background and a story in the front, in the foreground. Again, this is not Sargent, this is Leyendecker, if I'm not mistaken, and this is Link. So yeah, I was just doing some poses, some watercolor experimentation of just shapes and heads. This is technically supposed to be a young, beautiful woman, and it came out like an old, tired lady. So that was a fun one. Yeah. So I will say, like, you will see a change. This was all at the beginning stage, so yeah, keep at it. This I really like this one. This was a teapot or tea kettle. I really like the final look. Sometimes I draw my children, try to make them caricatures, or try to make them kind of look animated. So these are my kids, and yeah. And then I was watching TV and doodling at the exact same time. Okay, next I have this Strathmore mixed media, and I really like Chainsaw Man. So this was a sketchbook that I had started in 2023 for Inktober, but I never finished it, and I don't let good paper go to waste. So I was like, okay, let me use it for 2024 and do this. So learning, it has its benefits. Practicing has its payoffs, you know. So I found this gorgeous painting of Link, and I didn't trace. I just sketched it so it looked like this, and then I used watercolor. I will struggle with watercolor. I didn't struggle in this piece. I don't think. I think I did really well. Although a little bit more effort or solidification could have happened in his sword, but this paper still struggles a little bit with taking watercolor, so I had to be very careful. And there's a couple of like what's the opposite of bangers? Flukes or errors or mistakes. You can see I also had Posca markers, so I thought I could do Posca acrylic markers here, and honestly I didn't like the consistency or the way that it peeled the paper back, so I didn't use it as often. This is an ink piece that I'm super proud of. This is still one of my favorite pieces. I completed this in October of 2023, I think. And yeah, this was really fun to do. This is one of his panels that I just took like half the zombie. Like Fujimoto is insane. I only took like half the zombies, but this is a gorgeous piece. Just this was a lot of fun too, because I was experimenting with like water and ink in a pencil brush, so I would have a way to like quickly tone portions, and it was great. Like I would not do this differently. I like it. I actually carry one with me everywhere I go, but I need to refill it. This is another one that I really had fun with, but I'll talk about part of the process, because if you notice, there's a couple of like weird marks around the piece. So I did the sketch from the art book from Legend of Zelda, and then I started painting the foreground figure. I started putting in all the colors, and then did the blacks, and then I covered it up, and I used tape, and I did the background, and then I pulled the tape, and this was not quite what I expected. It started to peel portions of the paper. So if you have a suggestion on how to tackle something like that, I'm all ears. I do have masking fluid, but I need to keep experimenting with it, because sometimes if I don't have the patience, and you'll see it in one of the sketchbooks that I have later, if I don't have the patience to let it dry, it'll end up peeling the entire piece of paper. So yeah, but I'm really happy with this one. I really like Zelda, so these are kind of like my two of my favorite pieces, the Link and the Majora's Mask. I had this should be in color, yeah. So I did a sketch of Ramona flowers from Scott Pilgrim anime. You can barely see this, but now I have this. I did do this one with Posca marker, because I was like, okay, I don't like that it peels the paper a little bit, but it's not gonna be like a gigantic piece, so like how bad could it be? So I did that. That was lots of fun. ideating a Legend of Zelda piece with Zelda, but I'm not quite finished. This was a watercolor piece that I was trying to do with Witch Hat Atelier as the character, and he uses water. He's a water magician. I was learning how to mix skin colors. This is way too orange, so I give up. I gave up a little bit. I do take what I learn to heart. Like, okay, I need to really lower the intensity of the orange. I need to mix different colors. So I went and looked up some of the information from the video classes that I was taking. So little by little. This, because I wasn't quite used to the paper, I started experimenting with the gradients, the effects, the opaqueness of the watercolor, like the wet on wet, the wet on dry. So you'll see a couple pages that are really nonsensical, like they're not really good, but I'm trying to get the handle of something, like some sort of effect. Sometimes my doodles are not good, but this one is inspired by Calvin and Hobbes. This is one of the last. This is almost a year ago, but yeah, the kids were at the park, so I sketched them in the park, picking up rocks and flowers and sticks, and I also drew them like Calvin and Hobbes inspired. So I could, so I would memorialize them that way. This was, a seahorse. Here's the Legend of Zelda piece. Not quite finished. I feel like there needs to be like a lot of background, like a more complex background, to kind of like guide the eye and make this very interesting. So yeah, I always do, like, I continue to do master studies, so I was doing this. I really like that, like, negative space or the spaces where the line is empty but you can still feel like there's solidity, so I like that. Also was watching Marceline from Adventure Time, and I did like, well, it was not Marceline, it's her girlfriend, and so I was drawing that. Kind of like this one a little bit. Looks messy, but it kind of still conveys the concept of a person. Here's me experimenting. Here's some cross-hatching, some lines, some line work. Sometimes we have figure drawing sessions, and I went and try to use watercolor in its entirety to do the figure drawing. Here's another figure. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. This was okay. Yeah. So I started using a very small sketchbook to do studies of like just black and white, and then transfer them into this sketchbook to see if I could recreate it, but with a little bit more complexity. And that was my start of this, right? Yeah, sometimes like I don't like the color combination. I think this is rather weak. This was my last couple pieces. Like I said, I draw in cards, or I make cards for family and friends. And one of the things, one of my friends was having a baby shower, so I drew some babies, and then I transferred that to my card. Here's some anime characters. Here's some graphites. Right, my last piece, and that's it. Oh no, this is one. One of the things that I like to do is sometimes find watercolor pieces and bring them back to graphite to see if I could get the hand of conveying what the painting itself is trying to convey. Like, kind of leave, like, okay, this is supposed to be soft edges and transition from one color to another. So I'm like, okay, what if I make my edges very soft, and then some of my edges are very sharp, and see how that goes. So I find it like a fun practice because I love watercolor painting, so this is a good exercise. Okay, So the next sketchbook that I have is a smaller Moleskine. This is started in May of 2024, and I took it everywhere. Took it to the park with the kids, so I would doodle. One of the things, like I said, I want to get better at using the entire piece of paper, but I regret this composition. It makes absolutely zero sense, so I have to continue experimenting. But I really like this tree. I thought the tree was amazing. Um, this is a piece of a portrait of my son. Unfortunately, the kids don't stay still long enough, so gotta do what I can. These are some master studies. So my other piece was in May. This one's January. One of the things that I actually like to do, and this might be kind of crazy behavior. I like to randomly draw. I don't draw sequentially in my sketchbook. I read that advice on a subreddit a long time ago as a way to not worry or not fear the empty page. Like, oh, every page has to be better than the last. Draw at random pages. Like, go all the way to the middle of the sketchbook and draw. And if it's a masterpiece, great. If it sucks, great. Go to the first page, draw then. Go to the next page, go all the way to the end and draw there. And that might help you feel less intimidated. Like, oh, this has to be better, or this has to be better than this. Then you don't have to be worried about the sequential aspect of it all. What I do need to be better at is marking when I did them, because it makes me go crazy sometimes. Like if I don't date them, then I don't really know where it was in my progress in my work. But yeah, draw at a random page. Sometimes I have to go to work meetings and they're really boring, and I will doodle. And this is Title IX, giant Title IX landing on someone and just crushing them, which I don't mind Title IX as a regulation or as a law, but I thought it would be funny. Legend of Zelda, Lonk. That's a terrible link, but I really like this hair. I thought this was a good attempt at drawing hair, so I'll take what I can get. Some Sargents, again, one of my favorite artists. It's probably nowhere near as good of a master study, but bit by bit. Some Legend of Zelda, some pieces. She has so many different iterations. I think it's awesome. Sometimes doing small exercises from Michael Hampton, or a brief lunch break, drawing some gestural studies. Drawing while watching TV is also fun, because you just draw the cartoon characters your kids are watching. I absolutely love these two pieces. I found these in Pinterest, and I'm like, okay, can I replicate this? And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I learned a lot. One of my favorite things that I learned is just the amount of negative space, or just not having every line connect, can do wonders for the look of your painting and your drawing. So I was like, okay, do this more often. I started watching Dropout TV thanks to a friend, and there's this show that is interesting people, and they dress up in costumes and then they have to be interviewed. So one of my goals this year is to draw just like an entire page of all the different little portraits of people. But yeah, this was a fun one. I was just watching the show and like capturing the expressions, capturing the characters. Yeah. Another couple of Pinterest studies. You go to Pinterest, just go look for drawing sketches, like drawing and sketches and stuff like that, and try to replicate them and learn a little bit about shape making, like cross hatching, line work, light and dark. So yeah, fun stuff. Just picking random people from Pinterest, seeing if I can paint them or draw them. I like to do notes sometimes in my sketchbooks, kind of keep them as a diary or a journal at the same time. Here's another Pinterest study. This was alcohol markers, Tombos. This one was, I went to the library with the kids and I was sitting on the chair and I was like, okay, let me do some perspective. See if I can do a perspective study. So, oh, fun one. I went to Pinterest, found a Sotheby link to like a watercolor ink sketch of a statue, and I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. Okay, I like the draping, I like the anatomy, I like the shapes and the shadows, so I was like, all right, let's do this. I asked some friends to send me pictures of their cats so I could draw them, so I was like drawing Opus. Yeah, another Pinterest. Great place for references, honestly. Like, you can't go wrong. Just pick anything at random and just start working on it, and something will come out of that. Terrible figure drawings. I didn't like these. One annoying thing about the cross hatching is I don't make good decisions on like how much cross hatching I should do, so I need to be more careful with those. Sometimes doing anatomy. Sometimes just drawing a random person. Cartoon characters. This one was, I didn't make a decision of whether it was going to be a cartoon or a real person or realistic. So, yeah. Oh, this one's fun. We went to Chuck E. Cheese, the mouse, and my son. And that expression is just terrible. It's just so bad. But yeah, it's funny. I hope he sees these one day. Yep, Marco. This is my son watching TV, and he was standing so still that I could draw him for quite a bit. Sometimes, one of my favorite exercises to do is just draw a ball and do the shading. See if this ball is better than the last ball I ever made, and then the next ball is better than this ball, and so I just keep it up. Robert Pattinson. And this was kind of like a blind contour. Like, I started as a blind contour and just doing the shapes and stuff like that, and then I kind of filled it in when I finished. Another blind contour. That one wasn't as cute. Oh yeah, watercolor. I won't have very nice things to say about watercolor in this sketchbook. I think Moleskine. I think you have to go with the 200 GSM because the 125 or the 165 it struggles a little bit. You have to be very careful. You have to be very light in the application. But I like this watermelon piece. Some George Bridgman shapes in anatomy. Another marker piece. I think Dune had came out or was coming out around this time, so I was drawing some Middle Eastern inspired costumes and clothes. Okay, so I was reading a book about nuclear war scenario by Annie Jacobson, and I was like, okay, can I replicate kind of like a bomb explosion in watercolor in gouache? So I did that, and I'm really proud of this gradient here. It like the white softly transition into orange. I thought it was mwah, chef's kiss. You can see one of my favorite things that I like to do is when I'm doing a watercolor piece, I have one page where I'm doing the piece, and the other page I have all the mixing, and you'll see it in some other sketchbooks that I have. You'll see all the mixing that went into like finding the correct colors, and I think that's kind of like a fun way of showing the hard work. Some hands. I hate hands. They're not my favorite. Some weapons of mass creation. I messed up the length of the title, and it started to get all chunked up, and I was like, blah, don't do that. So these are some of my brushes, and I picked the big brushes that I have because that makes it easier to paint. Then I have some notes on my work. some ideas of how am I going to do my next couple pieces, how I want to do like people or bosses or monsters and weapons. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to that this year. Oh, the worst page. This is where I was referring to about like I still have masking fluid stuck to the pages. It's awful. Like I masked the masking fluid the flower to keep it from getting like ruined, and when I went to pull the masking fluid, it just broke. It just like this is all like peeled paper, so like it would ruin the back. And I don't know, I did some masking fluid or I did something here, and it just did not go through. And also it's just not good. Yeah, so struggle watercolor in this one. Could be better, you know. Another couple of dog paintings or dog and cat sketches and paintings. This is Opus and Bowie. Opus and Bowie. Yeah. Sorry, my accent comes out sometimes, and it's like Bowie, you know. Okay, so just random people at the cafe. Notes from work. Did a master study, or started to at least, of a Pieta with Mary and Jesus brought down from the cross, and started working on it, but you know, other things got in the way. This is an anime sketch. Some head drawings. This is way too flat. It looks like frog or something, but you know, little by little. This is another master study. This is what I mean, where like graphite will stick to the other page, so sometimes there's no point in having good pieces on the other side because it'll just get ruined. Oh, I'm still working on this piece. This is a humongous piece that I'm still working on, like the color and the composition, but seen a lot of like footage coming out of Palestine, and I was just like, yeah, let's make a commentary about that, and sadly it has to be the way this is. The next I have a portrait from Disco Elysium. I was playing with the acrylic markers. It's not very good. The mixing of the markers is not quite where I want it. But yeah, it's a start. I really like Disco Elysium. So, doodle, and then some reflections. I always try to save the last page for reflections on like my year or the time that I spent with the sketchbook, to be like, thank you. I really, you know, I've learned a lot. I really appreciate it. And let's continue onwards and do more stuff. Okay, this one, I have a tendency to sometimes abandon sketchbooks at some point and then come back to them. This one was started back in like 2017, and it was so bad. I just did not do watercolors very well at that time. Still don't, but it was, obviously this was a lot worse. But I came back to it. So I started. Oh, this is slightly 2023. So I come back. I stop. I come back. But I finished this one in 2024. And here's some Pokemons. My kid likes Pokemon, so I was like, okay, let me do one of my favorite set of evolutions: Ghastly, Gengar, and Haunter. And those are fun because the original paintings were in watercolors, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really fun to try. Some experiments that didn't go. My son sometimes gets a hold. My kids sometimes get a hold of my pages, and they do this. This is a fantastic piece of work. I love it. It's very abstract. You can see it's a lot of energy and enthusiasm in those pages. Okay. Some value studies. Sometimes you just gotta do your value studies, your value scales, and when you're really bored, your doodle. Be like, okay, a barrel, barrel and some suspenders. This was a Zelda piece that I ended up calling this a flop because one of the problems that I had was color mixing at this point was not very good. So it's just like I'm not getting the right effect that I wanted. So yeah, it's okay to give up on your pieces. It's okay to revisit them. This is Minecraft. My son likes Minecraft, so I'm like, okay, let me do Minecraft inspire like portrait and see if I can make it across like with like pixelated, but it's still a work in progress. Like I said, I'll revisit this and make it happen. Okay, so sometimes I write questions on my watercolors. Flop landscape, too much vegetation, too complicated. I started doing black and white compositions, and I did not do that with this one. So like I really did not plan this out effectively. Yeah, sometimes my doodles just show how I feel. A sketch, a portrait. I kind of like this paper for graphite and charcoal, but let's leave it as is. Again, not every piece can be a banger. This is where I was still thinking, okay, let me do a self-portrait of me, looking at me, just to be fun. I need to revisit that. That's an idea. Another Disco Elysium piece, kind of unfinished. I work a lot and I don't have a lot of spare time, so a lot of unfinished projects. It's one of those, you have to decide what you're gonna do. Like today I took the time to like do the sketchbook tour, and maybe tomorrow I will finish something. So yeah, you have to decide what you want to do with your time and use it effectively, especially with 2 kids and lots of work. Also, if you pick something relatively easy, you'll get done more, right? But I like challenging stuff, and so yeah, that's the thing. Yes, this is Pokemon watercolor. This one was fun. I did this at a coffee place, and I brought some watercolor pencils that were really bad in the mixed media notebook or sketchbook. But in this one, for some reason, I managed to get like a decent enough application out of it. Not on this one was bad. But on the link, I was like, wow, this is really fun. Like I should do this more often. So looking forward to that. Again, because I take my sketchbook wherever I go, I take notes of my work a lot. This is, again, my approach of all the watercolor mixing of how to get to the specific value and specific combination, and then my piece on the opposite side. So we had a chibi day in a Discord that I hang out with. So I drew a Witch Hat Atelier character as a chibi because they're so adorable, and then I painted it in watercolor. And then I'd use black marker to make the darkest darks. And I thought that was great. That was really, really fun. Sometimes you just gotta do your homework and practice like effects and blending and gradients and mess up as much as possible so you don't mess up in your actual paintings. This is me trying to do like a tone of the paper. Yeah. So more effects, another tone. See if I can do that. This is Payne's Gray. When I want to experiment with effects, I'll do Payne's Gray. This is a Japanese storefront. I got it in Pinterest. I messed up the perspective, so I'm not super happy with it, but I thought it was like a fun exercise. I also took liberties with the color of the building, so be that as it may. I need to learn kanji and katakana, because that is nonsensical. That is just a random scribble. So I apologize. This one, bleh, again, composition fails because I didn't plan this out, so I struggled. This one was a lot of fun because all I did was find a graphite drawing sketch that I thought was adorable. Again, a friend was having an event, and this was inspired from my friend's baby shower, but it was not quite something I gave them. But I went and found a Pinterest graphite drawing, and then I transferred it, quote unquote. Just kind of copied it. I didn't trace. I just do freehand, and then I painted it the way that I wanted to paint it. And I thought this was really fun. So yeah, if you are ever lacking like the inspiration, but you still want to paint, go find like a graphite sketch, transfer that into your piece of paper, and then just go ham with the colors. And you have like one listing to worry about. And the piece is kind of guaranteed to be nicely designed and pretty aesthetically. Like it's going to be appealing from the get-go because you're finding something that appeals to you and me. Like you don't have to design the entire thing. It's not a paints by number because I have to decide, the color of the skin, the color of the red of the fingerprint of the fingers, the tips of the fingers and stuff like that, the dress. So I could have done multiple things, but this was a fun one. The tone, the background, struggle a little bit with like bleeding of the hat to the background, but you live and learn. This was my last piece in this sketchbook, and this was a landscape. This one, I actually did the black and white composition, and then I transferred that. But halfway through, I lost the plot, and this was supposed to be more of snowy morning kind of. But as soon as I painted green, blue, and yellow for the sky, I was like, no, I kind of want to have like a green forest landscape. And I was like, okay, I lost it because I had to then fill this in and work a lot of the things that would have just been snowy white. Instead, I had to work in like more information. And then the problem there is that I'm still learning. So if you keep it simple, stupid. Okay, that is truly my last piece on this sketchbook. I have one more sketchbook, and then I have to pick up my kids. Okay, so I started this in 2024, and this is a Strathmore watercolor sketchbook. It is 8.5 by 11, so it's just like a regular print, 8.5 by 11, but it's watercolor paper. And this one took watercolor a lot nicer, even if I wasn't quite up to the challenge. This was a Payne's Gray attempt. This was my attempt at doing like a preliminary study. I thought that maybe if I could peel the places where I accidentally toned it a lot darker, I could get away with like having like white exposed, but this just made the texture ugly. So don't do that. Just don't tone it. Save the white. Be careful. This is future advice. This was an attempt that I made, and you'll see it later. Started painting a still life, and then I was like, I don't know how to paint a base, and the base was a deep metallic color, and I didn't like the composition, and I was just like, let me give up. Like, it's okay. Again, not all of them can be bangers. This is a painting of a person. I really messed up the thing with watercolors. You have to start light. You really have to like work very slowly and start with the lightest lights and then work your way darker and darker and darker. And it hadn't quite clicked to me. And so I obviously did this, and then I couldn't save this. No amount of peeling or painting over would have been able to save this. So, again, not everything can be a bang. Also, very, very orangey, the skin color, and it's not quite there. So I had done the initial composition here, and then I started it, And again, this is where I was like, I don't know how to paint metallic colors and paint a base. So I did this again. So I was like, okay, let me go back to square one, because I don't have it in this sketchbook. I don't have a color mixing grid on this sketchbook. So I was like, okay, combining each one and figuring things out. It's a very low stakes way of getting the hang of painting and mixing colors, because the worst you can do is just like mess up the sequence, you know, and you just mark it, okay, switch this with this, switch this with this. Like, it's not the end of the world, and then you have a reference you can just flip to at all times. I don't know what I was doing in this page. I just went crazy and started coloring around, but whatever. This one, Pinterest. If you grab stuff from Pinterest, then you could just kind of color it in, see if it works. If it doesn't work, whatever. Pinterest sketches, Pinterest paintings. That head's too small. Somebody cut it off at the top. Samurais. I like Japanese customs and stuff like that. So yeah. This was an exercise from a watercolor book that I have. I'll get the name some other time. But it was like, okay, it broke the assignment into like stages. It was like stage 1, do your lightest lights, leave the whites. Stage 2, do this portion. Stage 3, do this and this and this and this, and see if you can do a piece. And I was like, okay, let me do that. Next, I have some Pokemon. Again, if you're looking for an easy exercise or an easy way to combine colors and just some, just fun, just draw some Pokemons and paint them in watercolor, right? Experimenting, messing around. Always good to just pick up the pen, pick up the paintbrush and just practice, even if it's not going to be great. I really like this piece. This is not good, but I like the building. I like the colors. I like I mixed in one of the primary values with all of the colors, so it kind of it was consistent throughout. This, started this page and then kind of gave up halfway. It should have been like a red or a red and black, and instead I was like, just use the pigment. Sometimes you just gotta use the pigment, otherwise I feel guilty throwing it all out. So yeah. This is where I transferred that piece on Palestine that I haven't quite finished. I used the grip method. I transferred it. I have it laid there. I just need to come up with a color scheme, and I'm thinking like Hieronymus Bosch, like kind of like a hell piece, but I'm still in the process of working. I don't have I have a lot of stuff on my plate, so it's a challenging time to just think about creative stuff. So this is a Dan the Don panel. It wasn't quite as cool as the Chainsaw Man panel, but I was really happy with how it came out. It let me practice paint application and stuff like that, and I like that I was able to save all the white of the hair. So yeah, pick a panel of manga and then draw it and paint it. Okay. Focus on this one first. Using gouache, trying to do a portrait and just break it into shapes and then break it into value. Change vary the value in each side, in each portion of the face. So it makes sense. Master study from Monet. I have a Monet book that I was reading, and I was just messing with it. This one, I revisited the still life that I was initially started the sketchbook with, and I was like, okay, what if I just focus on the flowers, which was my primary interest, and do that? And then I did, like, I think I just applied more of the same color to make this dark. So yeah, I really like the blue and yellow. I think they really, it's very it's very cool. Okay, Pinterest. Just picked up a random minor looking person, like kind of retro or steampunk, kind of steampunky, and then a still life from library resource. So that was really fun. I was particularly proud of this little soft edge by the nose, which I really deliberately try to get, and also the kind of the gradient towards the bottom of the chin. I was deliberate. I was trying to do that on purpose. So once you start working and doing things deliberately, things might turn around. When I don't know what to draw, sometimes I'll do Legend of Zelda or Elden Ring. So here's the Earth 3 and a landscape. Too small. I gotta just use the entire page. When I really want to make an impression. A Redead from Legend of Zelda. This is my character from Elden Ring. I have a samurai build, dexterity with a huge sword. So yeah, that's my character. Oh, this was a fun one. I have a Monet book, right? As I mentioned, and one of the things that Monet painted was a battle of the U.S. Quezon and the CSS Alabama during the Civil War, right off the coast of France. And he painted the boat sinking. And one of the things that I really liked was the smoke that was coming out. So I was like, okay, can I replicate that? Can I replicate the smoke and the color combination and stuff like that? This was not quite finished and needed darker, much darker green. But I would focus primarily on the smoke. Like, can I replicate that effect? And I thought I did an okay job. This one I didn't do the opposite page. I just did it on the side because I did just a smaller portion. Like the painting was about this big as it was, so I just did a smaller portion. I just did the palette right here. So yeah. Last two pages. Trying to do the thing that Kylie recommended and just draw an anatomy skull that I have and then paint it in and see if I like any other combinations. And then you get to draw anatomy. You get to color it in, and then you get to design the shapes of the shadows and stuff like that. So I thought it was a win-win. This one, not good. Can't all be bangers, but okay, it's all good. Yeah, that concludes my sketchbook tour for 2024.